If you're listening to this while feeling like you're barely keeping your head above water, I want you to know this episode is for you because I've been there. I am there or was there just last week. And I think we need to talk about what strength actually looks like when life feels impossible. At the start of the year, if someone had told me what our family was going to go through the first half of the year with illnesses, I would have said, I can't handle that. But we can handle so much more than we think we can. And I know you know this because I know there are things you've gotten through as a mom that you never could have imagined before you became a parent. This episode isn't going to sugarcoat the mom experience. It's actually going to do the exact opposite. Probably overshare about some of the hardest parts because we can't talk about resilience without talking about struggle. Welcome to How to Quit Your Job, the podcast for moms ready to ditch the 9 to 5 and build a life and business they love. I'm your host, Jenna Reichel. Let's go. Hi, mom friends. I know you're probably listening to this while doing 17 other things. And honestly, that's exactly why this topic idea didn't just stay an idea and instead is a published episode that you're listening to. Because I see us all trying to hold it all together, wondering if we're strong enough, if we're doing enough, if we are enough. And I felt inspired. Or maybe inspired isn't the word because the inspiration came from a deep, dark place that I'm finally crawling out of. And through that experience, the being punched while down, that is why I felt like I needed to talk about the experience of struggle on the podcast in hopes that it creates some inspiration and momentum from this lonely yet shared experience that we all have as moms. And thinking about how to do that has been hard for me. When I think about what I want to say about the last few months that have been really difficult, I've been sort of lost for words because we all already know that parenting is difficult. It's hard and it's overwhelming. And everything that I've experienced is not unique. It's truly something we've all experienced as moms at one time or another. But then it hit me, that maybe the point of the story and sharing these things isn't about how hard things have been. I think that it's about what happens when life gets so messy and overwhelming that we can't see straight and we somehow keep going anyway. Maybe it's about recognizing that we are so much stronger than we give ourselves credit for. So I'm going to be really honest with you about my life these last few months because I think we need to talk about days and weeks, almost months, that aren't pretty. Not because I want your pity or because I think my struggles are unique, but really because I think we don't talk enough about how freaking resilient we actually are. So back in March, our whole family got hit with the flu. And I'm not talking about a little sniffle situation. I'm talking about the kind of flu that makes you question your will to live. Chris and I were both down for the count. Adley brought it home from his new daycare. It got passed to the nanny and eventually Jude, my 6-month-old at the time. And he ended up with it. And Jude had a consistent 104 fever that we couldn't get down. And we ended up in the emergency room in the middle of the night. So there we are, feeling like absolute garbage, trying to comfort a sick baby in a hospital waiting room, which took forever, while also dealing with the stress of having a toddler at home who's sick. Thankfully, my very best friend has her phone set so that when I call in the middle of the night, it rings. And she came over to be with Adley while we were in the hospital. And I'm forever grateful for having a friend in my life that truly answers the call when I need her most. And then, because apparently the universe has a twisted sense of humor, we find out a day after leaving the hospital that there was a patient who ended up having the measles in the same hospital we were in the pediatric waiting room that we spent hours in. And Jude wasn't yet at the age to be vaccinated for the measles. Thankfully, we found out that we left just a few hours before that patient was admitted, but there was definitely an added stress thinking and worrying about that close call. For 2 solid weeks, our life just stopped. It felt like we were living in a world that was just a dark cloud. And I found myself watching the clock, willing it to go faster because the only thing that could relieve us from the situation we were in was time passing. But time seemed to go slower, like we all know. And like I said, our life just stopped, except it didn't really stop, did it? Because when you're a mom, nothing actually stops. You still have to feed people and change diapers and try to comfort crying kids, except now you're doing all of this while you can barely stand up. Chris and I were both so wiped out that we started snapping at each other over stupid stuff. It felt like we were both underwater, gasping for air, and somehow expecting the other person to throw us a life preserver. It wasn't working. We even had to cancel our trip to Portugal, this trip we'd been looking forward to for months. I remember one afternoon I was sitting on the couch holding Jude while Adley watched his fourth hour of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Pupstruction. And I just started crying, not like the pretty single tear kind of crying, like the ugly snot running down your face kind of crying, because life felt so heavy and it felt like it would never end. I felt like I couldn't handle anything. I'm pretty sure Chris came in at some point and said, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong?" And I'm pretty sure I said something like, "I don't want to do this anymore." Maybe talking about parenting, maybe talking about being sick, maybe talking about watching kids' shows where you wake up in the middle of the night with the songs in your head. But here's the thing, we were doing it, we were handling it. It was messy and imperfect and nothing like I thought good parenting was supposed to look like, but we were getting through it. And looking back at that experience, I realized that maybe we're all stronger than we think. But then, of course, there's a round two, because apparently we weren't done yet. Just when I thought we were in the clear, just when I was finally feeling human again and thinking, okay, we survived that, we got through it, May happened. We got the stomach flu. Not the quick 24-hour thing, but the kind that goes on for almost a week and makes you question why anyone ever thought having kids was a good idea. Every nap and every morning, we were changing the sheets and washing every stuffed animal in his crib. And the boy sleeps with a lot of stuffed animals. And then, like a bad sequel that nobody asked for, hand, foot, and mouth disease made its grand entrance shortly after. And if you've never dealt with this particular joy, let me paint you a picture. It's basically like having the worst sore throat of your life, except the sores are also in your hands and feet and sometimes everywhere else too. It's delightful. Adley somehow got it, and we're still scratching our heads on where and how. He, of course, gave it to baby Jude, who had one of the more severe cases doctors have ever seen. I was on the phone with the pediatrician and in their office multiple times throughout the week. And of course, I got it too, because why wouldn't I? So I'm covered in painful blisters on my fingertips and toes. I can barely walk. There's no chance I'm typing or getting any work done. I'm trying to comfort a 9-month-old who doesn't want to eat because his mouth is full of sores, while also managing a cranky toddler. We were up basically every hour of the night. Chris, doing everything that he can to help. And I'm just thinking, are you kidding me right now? And that's the thing too, is sometimes when you're in this place, you can't help but just laugh because it does feel like something that you couldn't make up, right? There was this one night after both kids were finally in bed. I could barely walk or use my hands because of the blisters. And I decided to take a shower and I just completely broke down. I had this moment where I thought, I can't do this. I literally cannot do this anymore. I stayed in there for a while, just letting it all out. By the time I got out of the shower and got ready for bed, I was exhausted, but felt a little lighter. Crying is a way to get the stress out of your body. It releases stress. So I crawled into bed, laid my head down, and of course, Jude started crying. So I waddled into his room where Chris and I struggled to give him Tylenol because the boy just refuses to take it. And as I'm standing there watching this little guy who's hurting, I thought, okay, maybe we can't do this, but we're doing it anyway. And that felt like one of the more important realizations that I'd had in months. Are you feeling the pull to start your own business, but aren't sure even where to begin? I've created a free step-by-step workbook specifically for moms like you who want to transform their entrepreneurial dreams into reality. Okay. Inside, you'll discover practical exercises to uncover your unique skills, match your passions to profitable business ideas, and create an actionable 30-day plan that fits into your busy life. No more feeling stuck or overwhelmed. This workbook will help you gain clarity and confidence to take that first or next step. Okay? Head over to jenna.coach to download your free How to Start a Business When You Have No Idea What to Do workbook. And let's turn your business dreams into your new reality. Because during all of this chaos, I kept trying to write about what we were going through. I'd open my laptop, start typing out posts about how hard motherhood is, about feeling overwhelmed, about wondering if I was cut out for this, but I could never finish them. Every time I tried to put words to what we were experiencing, it felt too raw, too messy, too honest. Like, who wants to hear about someone else's sick kids and marital stress and canceled vacation plans? But now I realize that that was exactly the point because we don't talk enough about the messy middle of hard things. We share the before, we're planning this amazing trip, right? And we share the after. I'm so grateful for my family, but we don't talk about the during, the part where we're crying in our car in the hospital parking lot, the part where we and our partners are too exhausted to be kind to each other, the part where we're questioning everything. But that's where the real stuff happens. That's where we find out who we actually are when everything we thought we could count on literally falls apart. I'll never forget a conversation I had with one of my clients once her business was up and running and she was pretty consistently booked, which was a huge success, right? And she said something that just stopped me in my tracks. She said, "I'm so glad I didn't know what it would be like to start my own business because if I had known how hard it would be, I wouldn't have done it." And then she paused and said, "I'm so glad I did it." And I was like, oh my gosh, not only is that so true about starting a business, because I've been there too, but that's exactly how I feel about having kids. Because honestly, if someone had sat me down 4 years ago and said, hey, you're going to have these two amazing kids, but also you're going to spend weeks taking care of them while you're all sick. You're going to question your marriage. You're going to cancel trips you're excited about. And there are going to be days where you feel like you're completely failing at everything. I probably would have been like, yeah, that sounds terrible. I love my life and the fact that I never get sick and Chris and I can travel whenever we want. But here's the thing. I'm so glad we decided to have kids, right? Because when we're actually living the most messy parts, we discover that we can handle way more than we thought we could. We find these reserves of strength that we had no idea existed. We figure out solutions to problems we never could have imagined needing to solve, like how to get sleep during the day when a sick baby is attached to you, and how to make a smoothie with only alkaline ingredients, and how to set up a crib so that it's prepared for a stomach bug blowout after every nap. And when we get to the other side of that messy stuff, which sometimes feels like an entire lifetime, we know that it's worth it. It's hard to even describe why it's worth it, but it is. And here's what I want you to know that same resilience that gets us through impossible weeks like that, that's exactly what would make us incredible at anything we decide to tackle. Whether that's a business, a new career, a creative project, or just continuing to show up as the amazing moms we already are. Here's what I learned during those impossible weeks. Resilience doesn't look like having it all together. It doesn't look like handling everything perfectly or never feeling overwhelmed. Okay. Resilience doesn't feel good. Resilience looks like getting through Tuesday, even though Monday literally almost broke us, knowing that no one is coming to help with the kids this week. It looks like chicken nuggets for dinner 3 nights in a row and not feeling guilty about it. It looks like crying in the shower and then being patient and present with our family somehow. During those weeks when everyone was sick, there were days when I felt like we were barely keeping our head above water. The laundry piled up. We lived on pouches and smoothies. I let Adley watch way more TV than the first 2 years of his life combined because sometimes survival mode is the only mode we have. And you know what? We made it through. Our kids felt loved and cared for. My marriage didn't fall apart. It actually got stronger because we learned how to support each other differently. Nothing terrible happened because we weren't perfect. But here's what did happen. Okay. I learned that we could handle more than we thought we could. I learned that solutions show up when we need them. I learned that taking care of people we love gives us energy even when we think we have none left. And those skills, they translate to everything. When life gets complicated, when we have to pivot quickly, when something unexpected happens, we don't panic anymore because we've learned that we can figure things out as we go. So here's what I want us to take away from all of this. We are already more resilient than we know. Okay. The challenges we're facing right now, the overwhelming days, the constant decision making, the way we show up for our families, even when we're exhausted, our exhaustion is not evidence that we can't handle more. That's evidence that we're already handling the hardest job in the world. We don't need to wait until we feel more confident or more prepared or that we have our shit together to dream bigger. We don't need to wait until life gets easier or less chaotic because that day is not coming. And because here's the truth, if we can handle motherhood, we can handle anything. Every time we solve a problem on the fly, we are proving our capability. Every time we show up with love when we don't feel like we have anything left to give, we're demonstrating the kind of strength that moves mountains. Every time we find a way through an impossible situation, we're proving to ourselves that we can figure things out. The woman who can get through weeks like the ones I just described, she can absolutely do whatever she sets her mind to. Whether that's being an amazing mom, pursuing a dream she's been putting off, or just getting through another day with grace. Okay. Because she already is, you already are. I want you to do something for me. I want you to think about one really hard thing you've gotten through recently. Maybe it was a difficult day with your kids. Maybe it was a work crisis you had to handle. Maybe it was something with your family or your health or just one of those weeks where everything felt impossible and heavy. Now, I want you to really think about how you got through it. What did you do? How did you figure it out? What strengths did you tap into that you maybe didn't even realize you had? And yes, maybe you wish you would have done a few things differently, but give yourself grace and compassion. You got through it. What strength did you tap into to get through it? That's your resilience. That's your proof. That's your evidence that you are capable of so much more than you give yourself credit for. You are doing enough. You are enough. And if you ever decide you want to do something more, start that business, pursue that dream, make that change, know that the same strength that's gotten you this far is more than enough to take you wherever you want to go. Keep listening to these episodes if they're serving you, because we're going to keep talking about the real stuff, the messy stuff, the beautiful stuff that makes up this life we're all trying to figure out together. And remember, you don't have to have it all figured out. None of us do. We're all just doing our best. And most days, our best is pretty damn amazing. And all the other days, our best is absolutely enough. I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of How to Quit Your Job, a mom's guide to creating a life and business you love. If you want to learn more about how I can help you stop making excuses and start making moves, head on over to www.jenna.coach. I'll see you next week.